What happens when a factory CEO trades his corner office for a hairnet and steel-toe boots? Owen Keller was sitting in his office, flipping through last month's shipment reports, but his mind wasn't there. 13 factories across the state, and yet somehow, something didn't feel right. He didn't inherit his father's company just to play it safe. But lately, the numbers looked too perfect. No overtime logged, no HR complaints, and barely any turnover in the last 6 months. That wasn't normal for volume this high. He leaned back, rubbing his temples. They're either hiding something, he muttered to himself, or they've figured out how to run a perfect operation. And I doubt it's the second one. He'd never met most of the line workers. It wasn't by choice he inherited the chain right after college, and for the last 5 years had been stuck in meetings, expansion plans, and legal paperwork. The only people who'd ever seen his face were the top brass and a few district managers. He stood up. I need to see it myself. 3 days later, he was in a warehouse locker room on the outskirts of town, pulling a name tag over his smudged gray uniform. Kyle, it read. He looked in the mirror's shaggy brown wig, fake glasses, trimmed beard. He looked nothing like the clean-cut CEO on the company's About page. He'd picked this factory randomly. Factory number 9. One of the older ones. No HR complaints in over a year, yet one of the highest output numbers. It didn't add up. A short, wiry man walked in and clapped him on the back. You the new guy? He asked. I'm Luis. Let's hope you last longer than the last one. Owen raised an eyebrow. What happened to the last one? Luis shrugged. Didn't talk much. Quit after 2 days. Can't blame him. They walked into the main floor. The air was thick with machine grease. Conveyor belts rolled non-stop, workers moving like clockwork. But Owen noticed something right away. No one smiled. No one looked up. Even when someone dropped a box of packaging, no one helped. It was like everyone was on edge. Luis handed him gloves. Supervisor's name is Mike. Don't cross him. Just keep your head down. Mike showed up 10 minutes later. A tall guy in his 40s, balding, red-faced. All right, rookie, he barked. You'll be on station 4. Bagging and sealing. If you mess up, you're out. I don't have time for training wheels. Owen nodded. Got it. He took his place beside a young woman who couldn't have been older than 20. She barely glanced at him. Her hands worked fast, sealing boxes, stacking them, moving like she'd been doing this for years. Hi, he said. I'm Kyle. She hesitated. Karina. He noticed the small tremble in her fingers. You okay? She looked around nervously. Just work. Don't talk too much. Owen kept quiet after that, but he watched. Karina was fast. So were the 3 others on their row, 2 men and an older lady with graying hair. They barely took breaks. Mike walked by every 30 minutes, barking orders. And when he did, everyone moved faster. At lunch, Owen sat outside with Luis on a crate. You ever wonder why no one takes their full break? Owen asked. Luis looked around. Because Mike docks pay if you're late. Even 1 minute. That legal? Luis gave a dry laugh. Man, half the folks here don't even have papers. You think they're gonna argue? Owen froze. Wait. What? Luis leaned closer. Most of the line workers? Immigrants. Some don't speak English. Mike hires them off the books. Pays them under table. Less than minimum wage. He tells corporate they're temps. Owen's jaw tightened. How long's this been going on? Luis shrugged. Since before I got here. 5 years maybe? No one talks. They're scared. Owen couldn't believe what he was hearing. His father built this company with pride. Hired veterans, gave second chances, always paid fair. That night, Owen stayed late, pretending to clean. He watched Mike hand a small envelope to Karina. She opened it, frowned, and walked away. He caught up with her outside. "Karina," he said. "You okay?" She looked like she wanted to cry. "He said I missed hours." "I didn't. He took $50 from my pay." "Did you ask him about it?" She shook her head. "He said if I keep asking too many questions, I'll lose my spot. I can't. I need this job." Owen felt a familiar burn in his chest. Anger. He'd seen enough. Tomorrow, he'd push harder. And Mike wouldn't see it coming. The next morning, Owen arrived early, earlier than even the maintenance crew. The factory floor was dim, lit only by the emergency bulbs humming above. The silence made every footstep echo as he walked to his station. He wasn't there to cover shifts today, he was watching, listening, and keeping his eyes wide open. The first person through the door was Alma, the older woman from the previous day. She moved stiffly, her gait uneven. She winced slightly as she lowered herself onto the bench beside the line. "You okay?" he asked quietly. She nodded without looking at him. "Knees hurt." "Cold mornings are worse." She pulled on her gloves slowly, fingers trembling. "How long you been working here?" She blinked at him, then whispered, "Long enough to stop counting." As shift time drew near, workers filtered in, all quiet, heads down. No one lingered near the time clock. Everyone punched in exactly on the hour, not a second late, not a second early. Owen noticed one man, tall, lean, with a badly healed burn scar down his forearm, glance nervously at the wall clock before swiping his card. His hands shook as he did it. Mike came in just after the horn sounded. He didn't greet anyone. He didn't need to. His presence alone shifted the atmosphere. People stood straighter, moved faster. The tension was thicker than the oil slick on the floor. Owen kept his head down through the first 2 hours, moving at the same rhythm as the others. But he watched. He noticed that Mike made rounds, not to inspect work, but to bark out random criticisms. He scolded a man for dropping a roll of tape. Snapped at a woman for not stacking fast enough. No one dared argue. By mid-morning, one of the pallet jacks near Station 3 broke down. The worker, a young guy maybe in his 20s, flagged down Mike. "Jack's not moving," he said. "Hydraulics are shot." Mike didn't even look at it. "Then move it by hand. It's over 300 pounds. "I can't, then I'll find someone who can." Mike cut him off. "You don't like it, door's right there." The worker didn't reply. He just got behind the pallet and started pushing. Owen clenched his teeth. He wanted to step in, to say something, but he needed more. One bad order wasn't enough. Not yet. At lunch, Owen wandered to the far side of the lot, behind the loading dock. There, he found Karina sitting cross-legged on a stack of flattened boxes, chewing on a sandwich and staring at the dirt. "I didn't expect you to last the second day," she said without turning around. "I didn't expect to be this angry," he replied. She glanced at him. "You're angry?" He sat beside her. "I saw Mike dock your pay yesterday. And today, I watched him threaten to fire a guy for reporting broken equipment." She picked at a corner of her sandwich. "He does that. He knows no one will stop him. What happens if someone does?" She gave a bitter laugh. "Then he finds a reason to fire them. Or cuts their hours so low they quit." Owen looked at her. "Why hasn't anyone gone to someone higher up?" She stared at him like he'd asked if the sky was green. "Who? HR doesn't return calls. We don't even know who the regional manager is. Have you tried contacting corporate? And say what? That a supervisor's exploiting workers no one officially hired? That we're paid in cash envelopes and told to sign blank timesheets?" Owen's stomach turned. "You should leave," she added. "You seem like the kind of person who thinks he can fix things." "You can't." He stood up, heart pounding. "We'll see." When break ended, Owen purposefully slowed down his pace, letting himself fall behind. After 10 minutes, Mike strode over. "What's the problem, rookie?" "I'm not sure I'm getting the sealing process right," Owen said. Mike grabbed a box from the belt, inspected it, then tossed it on the floor. That's trash. Do it again. He didn't wait for a response. Just turned and walked off. Owen knelt to pick it up. Inside was a broken seal and a label already fading quality that would have never passed inspection in the main office. He waited until the next round of supplies came in, then volunteered to help unload the truck. The driver, a heavy-set guy with a clipboard and quick eyes, gave a nod. You knew? Just started, Owen said. Watch your hands. These crates aren't packed right. Mike rushes loading to beat quotas. You work all the factory routes? Most of them. This one's the worst. No equipment maintenance, no loading help. I've filed reports. Anyone follow up? The driver shook his head. Not once. Later that afternoon, Owen overheard a conversation near the back dock. Two workers were whispering in Spanish. He didn't understand much, but he caught enough. Papers threat, and Mike. He waited until the shift ended. As the horn sounded and the floor emptied, he made his way to the office at the far end of the warehouse. The door was closed. Through the small window, he saw Mike inside, feet on the desk, counting a stack of bills. Owen knocked once and entered. Mike didn't look up. What? I have a question about shift logs, Owen said. Mike leaned back, finally noticing him. You're not payroll. Why do you care? I noticed the time sheet for Station 4 doesn't match the production volume. Mike's eyes narrowed. You touching records now? I just want to understand how things work. Mike stood. You want to understand something? You're a temp. You show up, you work, you leave. You don't ask questions. Owen held his gaze. Even if someone's stealing hours? Mike's face flushed. Get out of my office. Owen walked out without another word. He didn't need to push further. That was enough. He made 2 calls that night. The first to the head of HR. The second to the company's legal counsel. The next morning, he returned to the factory. No uniform. No wig. No name tag. Just a button-down shirt and the company badge clipped to his belt. He walked straight through the front entrance. The receptionist stood up, confused. Mike was in the middle of a morning briefing when Owen stepped onto the floor. Every eye turned. Silence fell. Mike turned around, confused. Can I help you? Owen's voice cut through the still air. No. But I can help you pack up your things. Mike blinked. Who the hell are you? Owen pulled out his badge and held it up. Owen Keller. CEO. Gasps echoed. Karina dropped the tape gun in her hand. Luis's mouth fell open. Mike's face drained of color. Wait, what? You've been paying workers under the table, threatening them with termination, ignoring safety violations, and falsifying records, Owen said. Effective immediately, you're terminated. Security will escort you off the premises. Mike stammered. You can't prove any of that. I've got 3 days of eyewitness accounts, recorded conversations, and 2 attorneys waiting on the line. Owen said, turning to the stunned crowd. If anyone here wants to speak to HR or file a formal complaint, they'll be protected. No more retaliation. No more silence. Mike tried to approach him. You're making a mistake. Security arrived before he could get close. They didn't ask questions. They just followed orders. Owen turned to the workers. Everyone take 15. Full paid break. I'll be in the break room if anyone wants to talk. No one moved at first. Then Karina stepped forward, eyes locked on him. You're really the CEO? He nodded. She looked around. Then you'd better listen. And he did. For the next 2 hours he stood in that break room and listened to every story they'd been holding back for years. And not one of them held back. Owen stood at the edge of the break room, his shirt sleeves rolled to the elbows, watching faces slowly shift from disbelief to something closer to cautious hope. No one had left. Not one person. Some leaned against the walls, others sat cross-legged on the floor, arms folded across tired uniforms. Alma had pulled a chair close to the vending machines and was rubbing her knees silently, eyes locked on him. Karina stood near the doorway, arms crossed, expression unreadable. He took a breath and addressed them directly. I want every person in this building to know something. What happened here under Mike's watch does not reflect the values of this company, or what my father built. I didn't come down here to make a show. I came because I stopped trusting what I was hearing from my own managers. And I was right to. A man near the back raised his hand slowly. What happens now? Owen nodded. There will be changes. But I need your help to do it right. We're reviewing every shift record, every pay stub, and every personnel file. If you've been paid off the books, we'll fix it. If you've been threatened or harassed, I want you to report it confidentially, with no risk to your job. Starting today, we're bringing in a third-party audit team. And we'll have a bilingual HR rep on site full-time. That got a few reactions subtle, but there. A glance exchanged. A breath released. Still guarded, but something was shifting. Louise stepped forward. You said no risk to our jobs. But some of us don't have paperwork. What does that mean for us? Owen looked him in the eye. We'll find a path forward. No one's getting handed over. You've built this place with your hands. You're not disposable. A few heads dropped at that, whether in relief or disbelief, he couldn't tell. He left the break room shortly after, giving the workers space. The conference room upstairs had been cleared for temporary use, and within 20 minutes, the HR team from headquarters arrived, including Maria, a compliance officer fluent in Spanish, and Adrian, the company's legal counsel. By the time Owen sat down at the long table, the weight of the last few days began settling across his shoulders. But there was no time to pause. I want full profiles on every supervisor here, he told Adrian. Not just Mike. I want to know who knew what and when. They've already started combing emails and shift logs, she said. But there's something else. She turned her laptop toward him. A security cam still frame showed Mike walking out the side door 2 nights ago, a duffel bag in hand. The timestamp matched the night Karina had been shorted and the same night Owen had seen him counting cash. He took something, Owen said. Possibly records. Or cash. We'll find out. He didn't reply. Just stared at the screen for a long second before pushing it back. Later that afternoon, he walked the floor again, this time side by side with Maria. No clipboard. No press. Just observation. As they passed Station 3, a worker with a faded blue cap hesitated mid-stack. Are they really gone? He asked. Who? Owen replied. The guys Mike brought in at night. They weren't from here. Never clocked in. Maria took out her notepad. What time did they come in? After shift. Around 10. Loaded trucks. No lights. No paperwork. Owen blinked. Night crews? The man nodded. Unmarked trucks. Always rushed. Maria met Owen's eyes. Call security, Owen said. I want loading bay footage pulled for the last month. Back upstairs, they reviewed the tapes. What they found wasn't just unethical, it was criminal. Unregistered laborers loading full pallets onto trucks with no manifest, no shipment records, no trace. The same trucks returned every few nights. He was running a side distribution, Maria said. Selling product off the books. Owen leaned forward, jaw tight. How much are we talking? Hard to say yet, but it's not small scale. This has been going on for months, maybe years. He stood up. We're shutting the factory down for 48 hours. Adrian blinked. Won't that delay shipments? I don't care. We can't keep operating with this mess under our feet. He returned to the floor with a portable speaker in hand. The overhead PA crackled to life. This is Owen Keller. Effective immediately, all shifts are paused for the next 48 hours. You'll be paid for both days in full. Transportation stipends will be provided. We have to clean house and we need the time to do it right. By the time he stepped off the floor, the operations manager had arrived. Her name was Dana, a woman in her early 50s with a calm, measured tone and a reputation for fixing broken sites. She transferred from the company's Ohio plant at Owen's request. "Tell me what I'm walking into," she said as they walked the perimeter of the warehouse. "Rotten foundation," Owen replied. "Exploitation, theft, threats. Probably sabotage." They stopped near the loading dock. The crates sat untouched, shrink wraps still taut around the corners. "I'll need full staff interviews," Dana said. "And I want to reassign every team leader. I don't want anyone in a position of power who stood by and said nothing." "You have full authority," Owen said. "Start fresh." That night, Owen didn't go back to his hotel. He stayed in the factory office, reviewing footage, scribbling notes, calling department heads. At 2 a.m, Karina knocked on the open door. "You're still here?" He looked up, surprised. "Couldn't sleep." She didn't come in. Just leaned against the frame. "You meant it? About fixing it?" "Yes." She nodded once. "Then start with Alma. She's been covering 2 stations every week. Never complained. Just kept showing up." Owen wrote her name down. "And Luis," she added. "He trains everyone. Covers 6 shifts. Never once got a raise." Noted. "And there's a woman named Rosa who stopped coming last month. Mike said she quit. But I think he pushed her out." "Do you know her last name?" "No. But she used to wear a red scarf every day. Had a limp." He circled the name on his notepad. "I'll find her." Karina lingered another moment, then pushed off the doorframe. "If you want to fix this place, listen more than you talk. That's how you'll know who's worth keeping." By the next afternoon, investigators confirmed the scale of Mike's operation. Thousands of dollars worth of diverted inventory. Falsified logs. Off-the-books labor trafficking. Owen authorized immediate cooperation with law enforcement, but under one condition: no undocumented worker would be harmed or deported as a result of working under coercion. He called a meeting with legal, HR, Dana, and the corporate ethics officer. "Every single person who was part of this knowingly goes," he said. "I don't care what position they held." "What about the plant controller?" Dana asked. "She signed off on payroll. Gone. And the head of logistics? If he looked the other way even once, he's finished." By the end of the week, 11 staff members were terminated. Several were later arrested. But more importantly, the factory was gutted of the rot that had eaten through it for years. When operations resumed, things didn't magically improve. The line was still understaffed. Equipment still needed maintenance. And many workers remained wary. But there was no more yelling. No more envelopes. No more silence. Owen stood on the floor as the machines restarted. Karina passed him a clipboard without a word. He took it, nodded, and took his place beside her on the line. He wasn't there to observe. He was there to earn his way back. The factory's restart was deliberate, not rushed. Owen had spent the last 2 weeks embedded in every detail, reviewing vendor contracts, reintegrating payroll systems, auditing hiring practices, and rebuilding protocols from the ground up. He didn't delegate this. He sat in on every meeting, listened through every report, and walked the floor for hours each day. By the time production resumed, a temporary staffing agency had placed a few short-term workers to keep the lines moving, but things were still tight. Owen kept the pace manageable. No overtime. No pressure quotas. Just consistency. On the second Monday back, Alma arrived 10 minutes early. She walked slowly but more upright than before. She wore a soft brace under her uniform, now arranged quietly through the company's occupational health program. No one had made a speech about it. No one needed to. She showed up, and people noticed. Dana made her way over to Owen during the midday equipment check. "There's still hesitation in the air," she said, keeping her voice low. No one's sure if this is permanent. It will be, he replied. But they're right to wait. She nodded once. We're still short-staffed by 11. I need approval to start direct hiring again. Do it. But I want in-person interviews. No more blind vetting. Understood. By week's end, interviews began in the small office behind the break room. Maria handled the intake. Every applicant was seen in person. Karina volunteered to translate where needed. She refused payment. When Owen asked why, she didn't look up from her notes. Because someone should do it right, she said. A few days later, Owen sat down with Adrian in the main office. She laid out a printed report. Recovered inventory shows nearly $300,000 in diverted product, she said. We're working with authorities to prosecute the resale network. But there's a bigger issue. What's that? Several of our suppliers, the ones Mike dealt with directly, had informal agreements. No bids, no contracts. Just favors. Owen didn't look surprised. Cut them off. All of them. Already started. But we'll need new partners, and fast. Use the small vendors. The regional ones. I'll sign off on slightly higher costs if we get transparency. She hesitated before speaking again. We also recovered a list of undocumented workers Mike had blackmailed. He kept copies of false complaints threatening to use them if anyone spoke up. Owen's fists clenched. He documented his own extortion. He was careful. There were files marked as disciplinary with fabricated timestamps. Enough to scare people. I want every one of those records destroyed. But first, call those employees in. Apologize. Offer them full-time employment under protected status. And back pay. I already drafted the letters. Later that day, Owen returned to the floor. Luis was training a new hire, a quiet man in his 30s with steady hands and a notepad tucked in his back pocket. Owen waited until the station paused for calibration before approaching. Luis, he said, can we talk? Luis wiped his hands on a rag. Sure. I want to promote you to shift coordinator. Officially. With salary, benefits, and a training stipend. Luis blinked. For real? You've been doing the job without the title. It's time we fix that. He hesitated. Can I keep working the floor? At least part-time? You'll set your own schedule. Luis nodded, quiet for a moment. If this is what fixing looks like, I'm in. That afternoon, Karina approached Owen in the admin hallway. She was holding a thin folder. This belongs to Rosa, she said. Found it in the locker next to mine. She always left her scarf in it. Owen took it. Still no sign of her? Not yet. But I call the numbers she wrote on the inside. It was disconnected. He opened the folder. Inside were a few crumpled pay stubs and a copy of a shift schedule marked with red XS next to her name in the final week. She didn't quit, he said. She was pushed out. Karina nodded once. Keep helping me look? I already am. That night, security footage from 2 months prior revealed the truth. Rosa had been called into Mike's office shortly after requesting medical leave. She'd limped in, stood silently through a 10-minute exchange, and walked out with her badge removed. No paperwork. No signature. Just her leaving through the back door. The next morning, Owen stood in front of the full shift team at lineup. I have something to say, he began. This company failed Rosa. We failed her when we let someone with power treat her like she didn't matter. The room was still. Even the machines seemed quieter. We're going to find her. We're going to make it right. And from this day forward, if anyone here is mistreated, ignored, or pushed aside, you come to me. You will be heard. He didn't wait for applause. There wasn't any. Just heads nodding and a silence that carried weight. By the third week, Rosa was found. A community center volunteer returned Karina's call. Rosa had been staying with a cousin an hour away, unable to work, recovering from a leg injury worsened by standing through double shifts. She hadn't filed any complaints. She thought no one would believe her. Owen drove to meet her personally. He didn't bring forms or a camera. Just a letter of reinstatement, full medical coverage, and a handwritten note promising her job back whenever she was ready. She accepted the letter without speaking. But when he stood to leave, she reached out and touched his sleeve lightly. "Did someone finally listen?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "They did." Back at the factory, things weren't perfect. The lines ran slower. Orders took longer. Margins were thinner. But people stayed. New hires were vetted thoroughly. Dana implemented a feedback system where anonymous concerns were reviewed weekly by a rotating employee panel. The vending machines were replaced with subsidized hot meals. Paid breaks remained protected, even when shipments backed up. And every Friday, Owen walked the floor not in a suit, not making speeches but just walking. Asking questions. Carrying boxes when needed. Listening. One Friday near the end of the month, Karina pulled him aside. "You know Alma got her knee surgery scheduled?" He smiled. "That's good. She said she's only taking 1 week off. Wants to be here for the holiday rush. Tell her to take 2. She won't listen to me. Then I'll tell her. And Luis?" she added. "He's designing a new training flowchart. On his own time. He always had the vision," Owen said. "Just needed someone to clear the fog." Karina paused. "You're not leaving, are you?" "I'll rotate through the other plants. But this one? I'll always come back." She nodded. "Good. Because if things ever slip again, we'll say something. I'm counting on it." As the shift change bell rang, workers filtered out slowly, chatting in small groups. No one rushed out. No one kept their eyes down. The air felt different, not lighter, but grounded. Real. Owen stepped outside, the sun already dipping low. He stood beside the employee entrance, watching as Karina walked with a few others toward the lot. Luis waved from the shipping dock. Alma sat on a bench near the fence, her lunch pail beside her, humming something quiet. The factory was no longer just a place to work. It was a place being rebuilt by the people who had always held it together. And this time, they'd be heard.